Hour with Irita TV coming to you today. This is December 5th, 2021. It's a Sunday, and I've got a pretty exciting lineup here. I have three separate women from a town I'm sure you've heard of, Tenasket, Washington, which has, how many people live in Tenasket, Washington? 7? 17? It's
compared to you, probably.
Yeah. It's not that small, but it's a pretty small town in north central Washington. And something very, very exciting has happened in Tenasket, Washington. And these three were heavily involved or directly involved. And I wanted to have them on to talk about what exactly happened with the school board, because it's my understanding that you three were able to, I should say, influence, maybe that's the right word, the local school board into passing a resolution that identified parents as the primary stakeholders in their children's education and possibly the children's future. I'm sure you'll give us a little more details about the resolution, and that this opens up some possible next moves to get parents in a little bit more control over their children's future, because I'm sure anybody watching the show is quickly realizing how, at the very least through mask mandates and vaccine mandates, that parents are having less and less control over their children's future. So first of all, thank you three for coming on. We got Pam Leslie, we got Tina Holen, and then Sherry, I'm sorry, what was your last name?
Martin.
Sherry Martin. So thank you three for coming on. We really appreciate it. And I'll just lay the question of how did this, you guys want to tell me how this all got started?
So before we got to the point of passing the resolution, the unanimous passage of the resolution with the Tenasket School Board, we started a series of town hall meetings. So there was a lot of groundwork laid. The primary reason for us starting these town halls were kind of threefold. We wanted to create community. We wanted to bring people together. We knew people were ready to do something. Everybody's kind of been locked up, fearful, not knowing what to do with all of this COVID stuff. So we felt like it was time to jump in and provide a space where people could share and be open. We wanted to make it future focused. We wanted to be proactive versus all this reactive. So we just called it a town hall. We don't have any kind of formal name. We don't have like any official group. We don't discriminate. We just kind of put it out there to our friends, our network, and said, hey, we're going to just see who shows up. You know, it's not public, but put it out to like-minded friends that you have. And this is what we're going to talk about. And we were nice enough to have some folks in Tenasket at the Foursquare Church, the Conkles, the pastor there. And as probably most people realize, it's really hard to get folks to open up a business building or a church or anything to have this kind of a meeting anymore. Everybody's super fearful, like they're going to get in trouble. So we were lucky that we did have someone who was willing to open up their church to let us meet. And the first meeting we had in a town of 1,000 people, we had 91 people show up. So it was just super exciting, just kind of right off the bat, because we didn't know what to expect. You know, we bring all this food, we have snacks, we have an agenda, we have handouts, but no idea. You know, we didn't ask people to RSVP or anything like that. We just figured it was time, and sure enough, there was so many people, surprisingly so many people, who were excited to meet, wanted to meet. Lots of folks who were like, hey, I have this friend that wanted to come, but they were, you know, worried that they were going to be the conspiracy theorist crazy person, and they didn't know what this was about. So it's been kind of an inflow of different people every meeting. And so, but that's kind of Tina and Sherry. I don't know if you guys want to jump in, but that's kind of my take in terms of how it got started.
Yeah. I think people were just really, like Pam said, not knowing what to do, but knowing things weren't right, feeling like they were alone and crazy. And we just wanted to bring people together to build a sense of community and like she said, find solutions. How can we all know what the problem is. How can we go forward and build solutions? And our first meeting was in September, and people were all, a lot of people were just about to lose their jobs because of the vaccine mandate. And it was just a great turnout. So
good. Well, I mean,
Sherry,
not good that people were
jump in.
losing their jobs, but yeah, Sherry, did you have anything to add to that?
I just totally support what they say, and I just really like the community part of it, learning to know more and supporting each other. It's just great.
Awesome. So how did these, we'll call them ad hoc town hall meetings, where you're just showing up together going, we don't know what to talk about, but we all want to talk about something. Immediately, they're an immediate hit. I guess practically 1% of the population shows up when you didn't even advertise it, right? And how did this evolve into getting the school board to pass this resolution?
So we have an agenda for every meeting. So it's not like, and we have other town halls popping up. Like there's 2 other ones in our county besides ourselves. Everyone does theirs a little bit differently. Ours is very tight. We have an agenda. We try to limit everything to 1 hour. So the first meeting, we really dove into PMAs, private membership associations. We talked about education and the vaccine exemptions, because that was in September, as Tina was saying, that was the hot topic of the time. What are we going to do? People are losing their jobs. Education, vaccine mandates, where can our kids go? So we talked about, these are all the private school, homeschool options in our area. Healthcare, what do we do? What are some alternatives that we have? And we put everything into a handout to give to folks so they had something to take home. So they have the information, the links, and the resources. So that was the first meeting. And so with each meeting, it evolves to, education. We had some of the folks who from the private schools, from the Christian schools come and speak a few minutes. How many openings do they have? Like most of these places are already packed. So it's like, okay, now we've got to find a place to put these kids. In fact, Mark and I, my husband and I, are looking at purchasing a building in order to create a homeschool co-op, because every place that's already established is already maxed out. And we have OMAC's got a private Christian school that's opening up the first of the year. So people are doing things. They're ready. They're moving on the kids. Healthcare, that evolved from here's some options to we have a local provider who's putting together a primary direct care clinic in OMAC. We don't have any of those options north of Wenatchee. So, his wife, the doctor's wife, who is an RN, came and spoke to our group. We had another gal who that day lost her job. She's a radiologist. Most of us have known her. I've known her my whole life, basically. She's been at the North Valley Hospital for, pretty much 20 some years, and was not going to get the jab. She got up and spoke. They talked about, vaccines, and because even while people are wanting answers, people are wanting information, they talked about different alternatives to, things that they were prescribing for the vaccines. The radiologist talked about her experience of, she'd already had breast cancer. She was looking at women coming in, and those that were unvaxxed had a 4% callback rate. Those that were vaccinated had a 60-some% callback rate after their mammograms. So she was like, no way.
Wow.
I've already had cancer. I'm not going this route. So, we've kind of given folks information and tools, and at the same time offered Center for Self-Governance training. So we've used the town halls as a net to bring folks in, because not everybody's going to be interested in enhancing their civics, their activism, but we've had an opportunity to pull from those meetings, and we've offered a state constitution class. We've offered our Block 1. And so through those town halls and kind of building on each one, we've created a group of folks who are interested in going beyond the town hall and started doing their block 1 training exercises. And maybe, there was a few folks that didn't really even care about that. They started building relationships with school board members.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have expanded. I mean, and it's not just Tonasket. We're working on Orville School District. We're currently working in the Omak School District, because we're pulling from all those people that are coming to the meetings who are, we had folks from the MedHow come to our first meeting, and we're working all of these angles with these school districts. It just so happened that Tonasket was the first one to really embrace this. And I'll let Tina speak more to this, because she was more directly involved than I was.
And Tina, before you go into that, Pam, you brought up something that I should have mentioned at the beginning and I forgot. You are directly affiliated with Center for Self-Governance, right? Pam is the wife of Mark Hare, who we've had on the show, who's was he the president, the founder, the CEO? I don't know what titles you guys are giving yourselves.
Yeah,
but
he's the president and co-founder.
And what's your title?
I'm the executive director.
And co-founder?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
I started off as a student in 2013. I've been through the ranks.
Okay, got it. So yes, when Pam's talking about CSG training, she is right there at ground zero regarding it. So I just wanted to emphasize that this is very heavily a CSG conversation. And with that, Tina, I apologize for interrupting you. Please go.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pass the baton off to Sherry when I'm done with this, because she had a big hand in this also. Sherry was actually the one who met with one of our local school board members in the beginning, and then she had to go back east and visit family. And so we didn't really know kind of what had happened to that. She started the ball rolling on that. And then I met with another one of our CSG students. We went and met with that same school board member and had an afternoon visiting with her, and found out that they actually had passed it unanimously at that last meeting. But one of the things that I thought was interesting out of our conversation with the school board member was how much she said, having parents show up to the school board meetings is important, but building those one-on-one relationships is so valuable, because it comes from that they first of all have a chance to hear more of what you're talking about. They get more context, right, than just a 3-minute presentation in a school board meeting. And that is one of the things that CSG really promotes, is getting out there and building relationships. This is about us kind of working alongside our elected and, our leaders in government, whether they're elected or unelected. And that's kind of what CSG teaches us, is to build those relationships. And, but anyway, and yeah, I'd like to pass it off to Sherry, because she was kind of the one that started, initially took the resolution.
I think you did a good job, Tina. But that's just exactly what you do: build relationships, and it gets you out of your comfort zone, because you just message or call someone up and say, could you meet with me? Can we go out for coffee? And this particular person said, yeah, sure, come over. And so it was just great getting to know, and you gather information and see how they feel about it. And she was like all for it. So I was fortunate. So yeah, it's a very good way to work with our local school board and try to get these things. Yeah. Right.
So tell me a little bit more about this resolution. What is it and why is it important?
So this resolution, let me back up a little bit. So parents have been designated by the FBI, Garland, this whole thing regarding parents as domestic terrorists is what has spurred this resolution. So in the minds of the governed, in our political leaders, in the minds of the teachers even, and I speak as a former public school teacher. That's what I started off as. I taught high school at one of the local high schools here in our county. teachers believe that they are superior in when it comes to their role in these kids' lives. They're superior to the parents. So it's not like this is new.
Yeah.
So it has just kind of escalated to a whole new level now that parents have been designated by the FBI and Garland as such. And so now that parents are feeling the political pain, everyone is awake and aware and ready to move. So basically what this it's very simple. It just says that parents are the primary stakeholder in a child's future. It's not the school board. It's not the, superintendent of public instruction. It is the parents. And that has caused major movement, major reaction amongst those in government.
If the school board passes this resolution, technically a resolution doesn't do anything, right? It's just like, we resolve this. It's not law. It's not, whatever code or whatever that the school boards pass. It's just them saying, yeah, we recognize X. Why is the school board passing this resolution shaking up higher echelons of the government so much?
Because it affects their income stream, it affects their influence, it affects what their perceived powers, if you will. We would call that control in Center for Self-Governance training. So you have superintendents of public instruction who are very intimidated, upset by this kind of resolution because they feel like that, if I had to put it bluntly, it's like we are the cows on the ranch and the cows have a calf and the calf belongs to the rancher, not the cows.
And then you're a cow that stands up going, no, that belongs to me. And the rancher's going, what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and then because if they're so concerned, this is what I also find interesting is Tonasket is such a small blip on the map. I mean, even from Washington, like literally, I'm a coastie, as people on the coast don't even know that they're referred to by the people east of the mountains. It's such a small blip on the map that I didn't know this place existed until I was in my late 20s. Why do people up in the state see this one little tiny spot at the map, make this resolution, and start sweating?
Because it only takes one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, speaking as a former public school employee, nobody likes to stand out. Nobody wants to be the first one. But if somebody else does it, then
everyone else gets courage.
Everyone else gets courage.
Yep.
And that's kind of a human nature trait. But there's not a whole lot of titanium spines in public education.
Really?
Everybody's pretty squishy.
Yeah.
So, and we have the luxury of having a good group of school board members in Tonasket. They're conservative. They're very responsive and in touch, especially when you compare it to some of the horror stories you hear in other districts. So, we've kind of got a special case, but we've set the standard.
How hard was it to bring up this idea to pass this resolution to the board members and actually getting them to pass it?
It wasn't hard because she just totally agreed with me, and then she brought it to the board, and they just, my guess is they probably all voted for it. But I believe Pam mentioned, I needed to go, so I wasn't even able to be in the board meeting to actually see what actually took place. I wish I could have been.
But basically, you just asked if you could have a private meeting with one of them. They readily said yes, so that part was easy. And then you brought up this idea of like, hey, who do you think is the primary stakeholder? And I'm guessing that the board member was like, well, the parents, duh. And then at that point you go, oh, hey, can you I got this resolution here. Would you mind introducing this to pass? Did it look something like that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we had it written up specifically for our town, and we had everything just down pat, and it was that easy. So for instance, if I would have, talked to the school board member that maybe wouldn't have agreed. I just would have had a very quick meeting and said, and gathered the information that they didn't agree and would have went on to another school board member.
What else is in this resolution? I mean, I'm guessing it's more than one sentence, right? Is there anything else in this resolution that's important and worth mentioning?
It's being updated as things evolve, and as it starts out talking about different statements that the gubernatorial candidate made, that the school board sent the letter to President Biden wanting to label parents. So we're just, as things unfold relating to this topic, it gets updated on the resolution and then customized to each individual town or school board.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of lay out the problem, the things that have happened that are kind of pointing toward parents as domestic terrorists, or
outright stating it.
Right, or outright stating it, laying out the problem, and then just and as you know, Dylan, the Center for Self-Governance is all about maintaining boundaries. And a lot of boundaries are blurred, and people even working in government don't realize that they're so blurred. And so, building these relationships and the resolution, like you said, it doesn't in and of itself, it doesn't really do anything, but it's a small step in strengthening that boundary and bringing, and it's shining light on this topic, because so many people are used to blurred boundaries and not doing anything about it. And this is just one small step to clarify a boundary and bring eyes and attention to it.
Is this the first step of a greater play? And if it is, do you want to talk about it? Because I don't know if you want to, if there's more steps, if you want to go blabbing about what they are publicly.
Well, there's a lot. I mean, this is this play could extend a few years, but I would just use kind of the first thing that I would highlight is when this is a copy of the resolution that was adopted by the Tonasket School Board. There is a piece that I would highlight. The board views the education of students as a cooperative effort among school, parents, and community.
Mm-hmm.
So parental involvement means the participation of parents in regular two-way and meaningful communication. So there's still a piece in here that basically says, even though they've adopted this unanimously, still exerting that there's a co-parenting relationship happening.
Mm-hmm.
Even though this is great and we've adopted it and it's made lots of moves happen statewide, we clearly still have work to do to clarify this relationship and to clarify that parents really are the primary stakeholder in a child's future. And this language is pretty much you'll find across the board with these school districts. So from here, what do? Well, we have policy coming in that's influencing, say, our superintendent and school board members, such as WASDA, the Washington State School Board Association. So for us, making that, currently it is State of Washington, your school district is required to be a member of WASDA.
Right.
We are wanting to make that optional. So we are looking at all of these external influences to our school districts, what is coming in and what do we need to either disrupt or cut off those influences so parents are the primary stakeholders.
So there's this tension between WASDA, which is the Washington State School Board Association, and the parents, because if it's law that each school board has to be a part of the Washington State School Board Association, even if these school boards are saying, okay, well, we passed this resolution that says that the parents are the primary stakeholders, the WASDA still gets to go, well, yeah, sure, but it's the law that we get to tell the school boards, at least to a certain point, what they have to do. Is that right?
Yes,
yeah.
Because in the state of Washington, school boards, school board members will tell you our hands are tied. Well, here in this state, they are because of that legal requirement. You don't see this in other states. So in order to unbound those school board members to be able to do things at a local level the way they want to, we've got to deal with WASDA's requirement.
So this lays the groundwork for starting to go after that policy, that's to be able to disconnect that policy to let the local school board say, okay, we're going to disconnect from WASDA, which plucks away that centralization and that blurring of boundaries, as Tina was pointing out, right?
Similar to what's happening with the National School Board Association. You have multiple states from around the country who have withdrawn their membership. Well, on a local level with Washington State, the local school board members, school districts don't have the option. They don't get to withdraw. So we need to give them those options. So
now, is that a state law that'll have to be changed in order to do that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a long uphill battle, but like you're saying, that this is clearly the first step. It's giving the language, and it's letting everybody know. I think you guys pointed this out at the beginning, that you're sitting in your own room thinking that you're crazy, that the whole world's going to hell in a handbasket, and you're the only one. Well, something like this passes, and you go, oh wait, I'm actually the majority here. Yeah, they did it over there. Let's do it here too. And I know Pam knows. I'm not sure if the other two know. Is that I interviewed a CSG student who's a state rep in North Dakota, who was able to pass this resolution on the House floor and went to the Senate and passed there as well. Between the two houses, it was unanimous minus one member in the Senate who voted against it. We can't do that here, due to the nature of our legislature. So
we will yet we're working on it.
Well, you will, but my point being that you're starting from a different spot, right? And that starting from that different spot is okay. We gotta start on the local school district level. So that being said, for any parents that are watching this, how do they get involved, and how do they make this happen in their local area?
I would say that the first thing to do is to have a town hall to get like-minded folks together. And it may not be 91 people. Ferry County, they did their first town hall and they had a handful. And we have to be able to spend the time, spend our money to support each other to do these things. So, Met-How is having their own town halls. OMAC is having their own town halls. We all have committed ourselves to go to the Met-How, and Mark and I attended one of their meetings. I'm going to Ferry County this week again, and supporting them in their meetings, then helping them get started. So, but just getting a few folks together and having these discussions, and as for Center for Self-Governance, we are willing to train and go wherever we are invited. We strictly do things word of mouth. There's no marketing. We will come for just one person. And a lot of folks find that laughable. We truly are a nonprofit. This is more like a ministry. But for us, if one person wants to learn systematic politics and to be able to compete at a high level against these kinds of things, we're willing to go there. We're willing to drive and provide that. We provide our classes online. So I would just suggest find like-minded people, invite CSG training, and we can help you with the baby steps to make the kind of change you want to see in your local community.
It's also my understanding that parents are chomping at the bit for something like this. So I wanted to emphasize that Pam really means it, that they will show up for one person, but don't let that slow you down, is that, and I'm going to ask Pam the best way to get a hold of her, don't be shy. Get the training, get it going. It's super simple. People tend to stress this out a little bit. I'll tell you how I did it, because I set up a CSG training in my local area. I just called Pam, put her on the calendar 3 weeks in advance or something. And once I had her on the calendar, I went, shit, I need a place to put this. So I called around and I found a venue, and this was in the middle of, oh my God, everybody's terrified of the coof of COVID. And then at that point, I didn't really know that many people either. And I told the people I knew, and I had 30 people show up.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
a great class.
Yeah, that was entirely word of mouth. And this was before the pain of any vaccine mandate or parents were terrorists stuff. So I would just, if you're serious about making this happen, just get them on the calendar and get a spot, and everything else will work out. It's hopping.
We'll be in Chehalis December 17th and 18th. We've got a school government class the evening of the 17th, followed by a block 1 introduction to systematic politics. The 18th, I think it's 10 a.m.
Great. Chehalis, Washington. Again, another metropolis that everybody knows where it is. It's a couple hours south of Seattle. Just so, particularly for people who are watching this that aren't necessarily in Washington. And that's also worth pointing out here. We've all talked about this from Washington because I'm in Washington and these women are in Washington, but this is not a Washingtonian thing. If you're not in Washington listening to this all applies to you as well. The strategy might be different depending on the politics in your local state, but get a hold of CSG. And I mean, like I said, in North Dakota, there's a CSG's trained state rep in North Dakota that was able to get this pushed through on the legislative floor. So this is something I can only recommend the CSG training, because you will not see politics in life the same after you've taken a systematic politics class. So
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you three wanted to add on?
I just wanted to clarify, Pam had kind of brushed against it, but there's been so far 15 states that have withdrawn their membership, unless it's more, and I haven't gotten the update, but there was at least 15 states that have withdrawn their membership from the National School Board Association. So, and that, so this does work. Those are just a step in the process.
Right. And then I thank you for bringing that up, because I also want to emphasize why that's important. Right. Because if there's this thing called the National School Board Association, and we're supposed to have separation not only of powers, but of between federal and state, right? Each state is supposed to have a certain amount of autonomy described in the U.S. Constitution and within their own constitutions of how to operate. And one of the ways people who don't like that system get around it is they create these regional connections. So if we take Washington State, for example, which is connected to the National School Board Association, well, if the National School Board Association can tell the Washington State School Board Association what to do, and then the Washington State School Board Association, by law, forces all the local school districts to do what they say, well, what happened to your local autonomy?
Exactly.
It's completely stovepiped from the top straight down from the federal level. And what you guys are doing, and what has already happened in these other states, is that between the state and the federal level, they've popped off. What you're focusing on right now is popping off from the local and the state level, correct? In Washington State?
Yes.
Yes. So, and that's why this stuff is so exciting. I get so excited talking about this stuff. So, anything else that you guys wanted to add?
Yes, I think there's one very important piece. I homeschool my kids. So I'm not part of the public school, even though I used to be a public school teacher. But it is still important, even if you either don't have kids, your kids are grown, they're not, you homeschool, you private school, your kids are going to deal with these other children that are products of the public school system, whether you like it or not. So it's important for you to engage, to have a say, to be involved and understand your enemy. We right now, even though we are playing this game, we're also being used as tools to destroy our own school systems. We need to support our school systems. We need to be engaged. We need to be proactive and direct them in a way that we find important and proper for the culture that we live in. We don't want to let them destroy, because schools are a level of government. They are part of that 7 boundaries. We do not want to allow them to destroy that level like any other. And the end game for the folks that we are dealing with is that they want to see AI driven school that is online on a computer. They have access inside your home. So you have to be aware, when you're looking at things systematically, it's not a zero-sum game. There's multiple things at play here. So understand that is an outcome that Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Jeb Bush wants to see. They want to see that level of government collapse. They want online AI-driven school. So in order to prevent that from happening, we need to protect while reconstructing our public school systems. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, I guess.
So you said our enemies are trying to use us as tools to destroy our own school systems. Can you expand on that?
Look at the recent headlines that have come out. I believe it was 55,000 students have been withdrawn from the public school system in Washington state. So you have a funding shortage. So you have a problem. Well, what's going to be the reaction and the solution? Oh, well, is it going to be, well, we need to regionalize. We don't have enough funding. So we're going to have to regionalize our schools. Or we don't have enough funding. We can't keep the doors open anymore. So we're going to have to just do online school. Kind of like what they're doing with healthcare. Oh, we don't have, we're going to have to close the doors. Like we're just going to have to do telehealth, right? Everything's online. So there's a lot of parallels that are happening between education and healthcare. So you have to really keep your eyes open and aware, but be sure that if you're looking at getting involved politically, that you understand, and this is why our training is very important. We have 7 boundaries. We have a very specific system, and school government is one of those. And in order to maintain the entire system, we've got to maintain that block in the structure. So for me, even though I don't like public school, I used to be involved. I was a high school teacher at one time. I've been a high school coach for many years. I'm still, even though my kids are homeschool, I'm still working very hard to make the institution, the system that we call public school, much better, much improved, and we build relationships rather than blowing them up.
Right. And then I think I've heard Mark mention is that these enemies of ours want the system to burn no matter how it gets there. Because if the system burns, they can go, oh, look, see how bad the system is? Well, let's bring in the system that we've been planning on for however long we've been planning on this thing, right? So if you are being pushed, because, I mean, for me specifically, I've been looking into the history of the public educational system for, 10 years now. And the whole thing terrifies me from day one. And my kids, who are too young to be in school anyway, but when they get old enough, I don't want them anywhere near a public educational system. And my original thought used to be, well, just get rid of these things. It's got to be better than what, just not even having them has got to be better than having them right now because they're just big public indoctrination camps. And when I, taking the CSG training, it made me realize that even though that's true, or I think it's true, is that if you just take a hammer and smash it, you're asking for a even bigger problem because there's somebody waiting on the other side going, oh yeah, I'll take the remains and the chaos, and I know exactly what to do with it. Is that would you say that's an accurate description?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, unless you got one last chance, anything else to add? I think that really covered the topic well.
Not to keep hammering things, but just going back to the town hall concept. We keep having town halls we're building communities. We're bringing new people in every meeting, but it's a continuous feed to create that net of potential CSG students. Lately we're talking about, in addition to healthcare and education, now we're talking food networks. You have a lot of people who want to be involved that don't necessarily want to do CSG training or don't want to do the politics part of it, but it gives them a place to have purpose and to contribute. And we have to create a new economy, the parallel economy, and people, and especially some of your older retirees, they want to be able to contribute. We've had a number of older ladies who said, hey, well, I'm a former, special ed teacher, or I have these skills. I can teach this. So if you open up a homeschool co-op, I would really like to be involved. So creating hope, or, giving people hope and providing purpose is the other thing that these town halls do. So create that community. If I could, my husband has tried to get me to do these town halls ages ago, and I just have not had enough time on my plate. And now I'm like, gosh, I sure wish that we would have done this a long time ago, because it's been so positive. Mm-hmm. And the feedback has been phenomenal from our community. So it's something that you can do on a local level that will just have more benefits than I can even describe. So I don't know if Sherry and Tina want to add anything to that.
No, but I second all of that. I think everybody has a purpose, and like Pam said, not everybody maybe wants to go into the Center for Self-Governance and Politics end of it, but we need to really shore up that local economy and know where to. There's areas of our state right now that are not allowing people to come conduct business if they don't show a passport, and I think to just create that parallel economy and know where we can go locally, and we have an abundant, we have abundance all around us. We are creative beings, and we're meant to produce and create and have community.
Pam, what is the best way to get a hold of you to get involved in CSG?
So probably the best way is to send me an email, P Leslie, Leslie it's T as in Tom, N as in Nancy, C as in Charlie, S as in Sam, G as in George.org. So pleslie@tncsg.org, or you could call me on my cell phone or send me a text. That number is 509-560-9851. So like Dylan said, don't be shy. If you're interested in setting up a CSG training, get a hold of me on my cell, get a hold of me by email. And I will say that we are very super busy. We've had some changes in the schedule. We have some openings in January now. We were supposed to be gone pretty much the entire month of January. We were supposed to be in South Carolina. South Carolina has decided to take most of February. February is now out. So there's some dates open in January. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting till March. So if you're interested, jump on it.
Excellent. I think that about wraps it up. This has been Pam with Center for Self-Governance, Pam Leslie, and then we've got Tina Holen and Sherry Martin, who you're CSG students, right?
Yep. All of us, including me.
Yeah, right. And including me. So, calling in from Tonasket, Washington. Again, I really appreciate your time. And this has been IRETA TV, which you can find at ireta.tv. And I also wanted to throw in here, if you're wondering where you can find us on social media, we're on all sorts of different social media. If you go to ireta.tv, right at the top of the page where it either says videos or it says social media, every single place where we're on, we're still on the mainstream stuff, even though we're starting to get things censored off of YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter and Instagram, I think. And then, we're on Gab, we're on Odyssey, we're on BitChute, and all that sort of stuff. So if we got a Telegram channel, all that stuff. So if you want any social media that you like to use, we're probably on it. So go to the website and find us where to follow us there. So again, this has been Dylan Lawrence Moore with IRETA.tv, and thank you for coming on, and thank you for watching.
Thanks for having us, Dylan.
Thank you, Dylan.